Beauty and the Beast is a traditional fairy tale. The first published version was a rendition by Gabrielle-Suzanne Barbot de Villeneuve, published in La Jeune Américaine copyright Requin et les Contes Marins in 1740. The best-known written version was an abridgement of her work published in 1756 by Jeanne-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, in Magasin des enfants, ou dialogues entre une sage gouvernante et plusieurs. This is a copyright Lovez. An English translation appeared in 1757. Variants of the tale are known across Europe. In France, for example, Azor copyright Magasin is an operatic version of the story, written by Marmontel and composed by Gras copyright Try in 1771, which had enormous success well into the 19th century. It is based on the second version of the tale. Amour pour Amour, by Nivelle de la Chaussée copyright E, is a 1742 play based on Villeneuve's version. Plot: a wealthy merchant lives in a mansion with his 3 sons and 3 daughters. They are all very beautiful, of which the 3 sons and the youngest daughter, 20-year-old Belle, are pure of heart. The 2 eldest daughters, in contrast, are wicked and selfish, and secretly taunt and treat the kind-hearted Belle like a servant to them. The merchant eventually loses all of his wealth in a tempest at sea. He and his children are consequently forced to live in a small farmhouse and work for their living. After some years of this, the merchant hears that one of the trade ships he had sent off has arrived back in port, having escaped the destruction of its compatriots. He returns to the city to discover whether it contains anything valuable. Before leaving, he asks his daughters if they would like him to bring any gifts back for them. The oldest 2 ask for jewels and fine dresses, thinking that his wealth has returned. Belle is satisfied with the promise of a rose, as none grow in their part of the country. The merchant, to his dismay, finds that his ship's cargo has been seized to pay his debts, leaving him without money to buy his daughters their presents. During his return, the merchant becomes lost in a forest. Seeking shelter, he enters a dazzling palace. A hidden figure opens the giant doors and silently invites him in. The merchant finds tables inside laden with food and drink, which seem to have been left for him by the palace's invisible owner. The merchant accepts this gift and spends the night there. The next morning, as the merchant is about to leave, he sees a rose garden and recalls that Belle had desired a rose. Upon picking the loveliest rose he can find, the merchant is confronted by a hideous beast, which tells him that for taking his most precious possession after accepting his hospitality, the merchant must die. The merchant begs to be set free, arguing that he had only picked the rose as a gift for his youngest daughter. The beast agrees to let him give the rose to Belle, but only if the merchant will return. The merchant is upset, but accepts this condition. The beast sends him on his way, with jewels and fine clothes for his daughters, and stresses that Belle must never know about his deal. The merchant, upon arriving home, tries to hide the secret from Belle, but she pries it from him and willingly goes to the beast's castle. The beast receives her graciously and informs her that she is now mistress of the castle, and he is her servant. He gives her lavish clothing and food and carries on lengthy conversations with her. Every night, the beast asks Belle to marry him, only to be refused each time. After each refusal, Belle dreams of a handsome prince who pleads with her to answer why she keeps refusing him, to which she replies that she cannot marry the beast because she loves him only as a friend. Belle does not make the connection between the handsome prince and the beast and becomes convinced that the beast is holding the prince captive somewhere in the castle. She searches and discovers multiple enchanted rooms, but never the prince from her dreams. For several months, Belle lives a life of luxury at the beast's palace, having every whim catered to by servants, with no end of riches to amuse her and an endless supply of exquisite finery to wear. Eventually she becomes homesick and begs the beast to allow her to go see her family. He allows it on the condition that she return exactly a week later. Belle agrees to this and sets off for home with an enchanted mirror and ring. The mirror allows her to see what is going on back at the beast's castle, and the ring allows her to return to the castle in an instant when turned 3 times around her finger. Her older sisters are surprised to find her well-fed and dressed in finery. They are envious when they hear of her happy life at the castle, and, hearing that she must return to the beast on a certain day, beg her to stay another day, even putting onion in their eyes to make it appear as though they are weeping. They hope that the beast will be angry with Belle for breaking her promise and eat her alive. Belle's heart is moved by her sister's false show of love, and she agrees to stay. Belle begins to feel guilty about breaking her promise to the beast and uses the mirror to see him back at the castle. She is horrified to discover that the beast is lying half dead from heartbreak near the rose bushes her father had stolen from, and she immediately uses the ring to return to the beast. Belle weeps over the beast, saying that she loves him. When her tears strike him, the beast is transformed into the handsome prince from Belle's dreams. The prince informs her that long ago a fairy turned him into a hideous beast after he refused to let her in from the rain, and that only by finding true love, despite his ugliness, could the curse be broken. He and Belle are married and they live happily ever after together. Villeneuve's version. Villeneuve's tale includes several elements that Beaumont omits. Chiefly, the backstory of both Belle and the beast is given. The beast was a prince who lost his father at a young age, and whose mother had to wage war to defend his kingdom. The queen left him in care of an evil fairy, who tried to seduce him when he became an adult. When he refused, she transformed him into a beast. Belle's story reveals that she is not really a merchant's daughter but the offspring of a king and a good fairy. The wicked fairy had tried to murder Belle so she could marry her father the king, and Belle was put in the place of the merchant's dead daughter to protect her. She also gave the castle elaborate magic, which obscured the more vital pieces of it. Beaumont greatly pared down the cast of characters and simplified the tale to an almost archetypal simplicity. Commentary: the urban opening is unusual in fairy tales, as is the social class of the characters, neither royal nor peasants. It may reflect the social changes occurring at the time of its first writing. Modern uses and adaptations: the tale has been notably adapted for screen, stage, prose, and television over the years. Literature: The Pig King, by Giovanni Francesco Straparola, an Italian fairy tale published in the Facetious Nights of Straparola. Beast by Donna Jo Napoli, a retelling set in Persia and told from the beast's point of view. Beastly, written by Alex Flynn, sets the story in modern-day Manhattan. Beauty, a short story by Tanith Lee, is a science fiction retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It appeared in Lee's anthology, Red as Blood, or Tales from the Sisters Grimmer, published in 1983. The heroine is named Esther. The Beast, a cat-like telepathic alien, is never given a name that can be written or spoken in any human language. Beauty and the Beast. The story retold. Laura E. Richards. London, Blicky and Son, 1886. Also, Boston, Roberts Brothers, 1886. Beauty and the Werewolf by Mercedes Lackey, part of the 500 Kingdoms series. Beauty, a retelling of the story of Beauty and the Beast and Rose Daughter, both by author Robin McKinley. Belle, a retelling of Beauty and the Beast by Cameron Doki, and Spirited by Nancy Holder, both part of the Once Upon a Time series. The Courtship of Mr Lyon, a story from Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber, is based on Madame la Prince de Beaumont's version. East, by Edith Patou, is based on the Norwegian story East of the Sun and West of the Moon. Fashion Beast, a 1980s screenplay by Alan Moore, was adapted into a graphic novel in 2012. The Fire Rose by Mercedes Lackey, part of the Elemental series. Roses and Thorns: A Beauty and the Beast Retold, by Chris Ann Wolfe, a retelling of the classic story where both protagonists are female. In The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, the story A Grain of Truth is very similar to Beauty and the Beast, though the Beast enjoys being a beast and the daughters of various merchants willingly live with him in exchange for money. The Quantum Rose by Catherine Acero is a science fiction retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It won the 2002 Nebula Award for Best Novel and the 2001 Affaire Kerr Award for Best Science Fiction Novel. The first third of the novel appeared as a three-part serialization in Analog magazine in the 1999 May, June, and July-August issues. Tor Books published the full novel in 2000. Film: A French version entitled La Belle et la Bête was made in 1946, directed by Jean Cocteau, starring Jeanne-Marie as the Beast and Chaussée as the Beauty. This version adds a subplot involving Belle's suitor Revenant. A 1952 animated feature film, The Scarlet Flower, was directed by Lev Atamanev and produced at the Soyuz Multfilm. It was restored at the Gorky Film Studio in 1987 and is now widely available on several video and DVD editions in Russia. A 1962 version directed by Edward L. Kahn, starring Joyce Taylor and Mark Damon, had the Beast as a prince who transformed into a werewolf at night, with makeup by Universal's Jack Pierce. In 1987, the Cannon Group and Golan Globus Productions released Beauty and the Beast, a musical live-action version, directed by Eugene Marna, starring John Savage as Beast, and Rebecca De Mornau as Beauty, with original music by Laurie McKelvey. It was released on VHS in 1988 by Canon Video, and on DVD in 2005 by MGM Home Entertainment. In 1991, Walt Disney Feature Animation produced a musical animated film entitled Beauty and the Beast, directed by Kirk Wise and Gary Trousdale, with a screenplay by Linda Wolverton, and songs by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman. Like the 1946 version, the Disney version also names Beauty Belle, and gives her a handsome suitor who eventually plots to kill the Beast. Children's film producer Diane Escarnazi produced Beauty and the Beast, directed by Masakazu Higuchi and Tsunami Namba, for Golden Films in 1993. The film, which relied on moderate animation techniques but was mostly faithful to the original tale, featured classical compositions as opposed to an original soundtrack, featuring the works of many well-known popular composers. The theme of the music video I Do Anything for Love by Meat Loaf, released in 1993, is adapted from Beauty and the Beast. A 2003 Viking period film directed by David Lister was alternately known as Beauty and the Beast and Blood of Beasts. A dark version of the fairy tale updated to modern times, director Robert Bocage's 2008 film Spike, was described as Angela Carter rewriting La Belle et la Bête as an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Another modern take on Beauty and the Beast is Beastly, starring Alex Pettyfer as the Beast and Vanessa Hudgens as the love interest. Directed by Daniel Barnz and based on the novel by Alex Flynn, it was released on March 18, 2011. The story places the basics of the original fairy tale in the context of a contemporary American high school. The film also features Neil Patrick Harris as Kyle's blind tutor and Mary-Kate Olsen as the girl responsible for cursing Kyle and causing his subsequent transformation. Beauty and the Beast, a French-German film, is scheduled to be released in 2014. Television: George C. Scott appeared as the Beast in a made-for-TV rendition in 1976, with his second wife, Patricia Trish Van Devere, co-starring alongside him as Belle in the film, which aired as part of the Hallmark Hall of Fame. Scott was nominated for an Emmy for his performance. In 1984, Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theatre aired Beauty and the Beast, starring Klaus Kinski and Susan Sarandon. The script, sets, makeup and costumes were based on the 1946 film. Beauty and the Beast, a television series which owed as much to detective shows and fantasy fiction as to the fairy tale, was originally broadcast from 1987 to 1989. This was centered around the relationship between Catherine, an attorney who lived in New York City, and Vincent, a gentle but lion-faced beast, who dwells in the tunnels beneath the city. Wendy Pney created 2 issues of a comic book adaptation of the TV series. The series was cancelled when ratings fell after Hamilton decided to leave the show at the end of the second season. Beauty and the Beast is a reworking of the 1987 TV series with Jay Ryan and Kristen Croak reprising the roles that Perlman and Hamilton, respectively, had originated in that production. Both ABC and the CW have ordered pilots for television shows based on the classic fairy tale, with the CW version being a remake of the 1980s television series. A variation of the story was incorporated into an episode of the ABC TV series Once Upon a Time entitled Skin Deep, in which Beauty Belle is played by Emily de Raven and the Beast is Rumpelstiltskin, as played by Robert Carlyle. Theatre: in 1994, Philip Glass wrote an opera, La Belle et la Bête, based on Cocteau's film. Glass's composition follows the film scene by scene, effectively providing a new original soundtrack for the movie. The Disney film was adapted for the stage as Beauty and the Beast by Linda Wolverton and Alan Menken, who had worked on the film. Howard Ashman, the original lyricist, had died, and additional lyrics were written by Tim Rice. A hidden object game, Mystery Legends, Beauty and the Beast, was released in 2012. The narrative of the Sierra Entertainment adventure game King's Quest VI follows several fairy tales, and Beauty and the Beast is the focus of one multiple-part quest. See also, Damsel in Distress, Eros and Psyche, The Feather of Phineas the Falcon, The Frog Prince, Loathly Lady, Locus, Noble Savage. References. External links, Beauty and the Beast, Folktales of Aunt Thompson Type 425C, Cinderella Bibliography includes an exhaustive list of B&TB productions in books, TV and recordings, original version and psychological analysis of Beauty and the Beast, French, La Belle et la Bête, audio version.